Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive Podcast. Hope you are doing well and taking good care of yourself. We go beyond the headlines and uncover the truth behind real stories, real crimes, and real consequences. Let's move towards today's topic.
Imagine, if you will, the year is 1928. We are dropping you right into the heart of Lucknow, India. And, before we get into the darkness of today's story, you really have to understand the light. Lucknow in the era of the British Raj isn't just a city, it is. It's a mood, it's an entire aesthetic.
It really is. It's the cultural capital of the Awadh province. And you have this incredible friction and fusion happening all at once. On one side, you have the British colonial machine, the bureaucrats, the railways, the clubs, all that structure.
Right.
And on the other, you have the fading but still incredibly potent glory of the Nawabs. So it's a time of, extreme courtly manners, poetry, tizib, which is this really untranslatable word for etiquette and sophistication.
And just unimaginable wealth. We're talking about a city of gardens and palaces. And right in the center of all this, near the famous Hazratganj district, which is still, the posh heart of the city today, stands a property that just encapsulates all of that grandeur, the Sharma family Haveli.
Though, if you were to go to Lucknow today and try to ask a rickshaw driver to take you there, you are going to get a very different reaction than you would expect for a historical site.
Exactly. You mentioned the Sharma Haveli, and the conversation just dies. It isn't a tourist trap. It isn't a museum. It's a scar. It is a place that nearly a century later, people actively avoid. The locals don't just whisper the name, they shudder. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why. We're unpacking the story of the Sharma family, and I want to set the expectations right now. This is not a campfire ghost story.
That is such a vital distinction to make. If you look at the source material we've gathered, and we're talking municipal records, police files from the British administration, personal diaries, and even forensic reports, this reads so much more like a procedural crime thriller than a supernatural tale.
I agree completely. We are looking at a historical cold case involving a cursed property, a missing family, and a dark secret literally buried in the walls.
It's a bridge between folklore and forensic science. We have a timeline here. We can track the complete disintegration of a family week by week from what seemed like a perfect deal to a total, absolute nightmare.
We have a room that was sealed for 15 years. We have a diary written by a woman who was trapped inside that room. We have a basement filled with, well, we will get to the basement, but let's just say it completely changes the genre of this story.
It really does. So let's set that stage.
Okay, so it's October 1927. The monsoon has just passed. The air is starting to cool down. And into this picture steps Ganesh Prasad Sharma. He's 45 years old, a wealthy merchant dealing in textiles from Kanpur.
Right, and you have to understand the difference. Kanpur is industrial, it's gritty, it's where the money is made. Lucknow is refined, it's where you show off that money. Ganesh is looking to level up, socially.
He represents that rising merchant class of the era, doesn't he? He has the money, but what he wants is status. He wants the address.
He does. And he has a family to bring with him, his wife, Saraswati Devi, who is 34, very educated, from a prestigious Brahmin family in Benares, and they have 3 kids, Rajesh, who's 14, Preeti, who is 11, and the youngest, Vikram, who is only 8. They are the absolute picture of an upwardly mobile, happy Indian family.
And they find what looks like the ultimate status symbol, a massive haveli. For those who don't know, a haveli is a traditional townhouse, usually built around a central courtyard. But this one is a masterpiece. The sources describe intricate stone lattice work jallies that filtered the sunlight so beautifully.
Marble floors that look like frozen milk.
Yeah. Enamel work on the doors, Mughal-style frescoes on the ceilings.
It's a dream home, a palace. But as we often see when we look at, financial forensics, when an asset is that undervalued, there's always a reason.
Always. The seller is a man named Nawab Muhammad Iqbal Khan. And he sells this palace to Ganesh for a price that is just. It's suspiciously low. It's a steal.
And the Nawab, he has a story ready to go. He tells Ganesh, I have urgent business in Kolkata. I need to liquidate my assets and leave immediately. It's the classic motivated seller pitch. Very believable.
On the surface, it holds up. But if you dig into the witness accounts from the actual deed signing, a very different picture starts to emerge.
Yes. The people who were present noted the Nawab's physical state. He wasn't acting like a man who was rushing toward a big business opportunity. He was sweating. His eyes were darting around the room. He looked like a man who was running away from something.
That specific detail, the fear in his eyes, That's the first real crack in the facade, isn't it? But Ganesh is a businessman. He sees the profit margin. He sees the deal. He ignores the gut instinct.
He does. The deal is signed in October 1927. The family moves in. And at first it's idyllic. The kids are running around exploring this massive house. His business is booming. Everything is perfect. But then what you called the social immune system of the city starts to kick in.
That's a great way to put it. In 1920s India, a household like this runs on its staff. The servants are the nervous system of the house. They're connected to all the local gossip, the folklore, and they spend time in the dark corners. The kitchens, the storerooms, the attics.
So if a house is sick, the staff get sick first. They're the canaries in the coal mine.
And the rejection is immediate. They brought their own staff from Kanpur. One man in particular, Ramdin, a 45-year-old servant. This guy is a veteran. He has managed big households. He knows the drill. He's not flighty or superstitious.
No, not at all. But in November, barely a month after they've moved in, Ramdin quits.
And he doesn't just give notice, he flees. Ganesh tries to reason with him. He even offers him a raise. Now, you have to understand the economic context here. In 1927, walking away from a stable job with a wealthy patron was an incredibly risky thing to do.
Hugely risky. For Ramdin to refuse more money, it means the cost of staying was higher than the risk of poverty. That's a powerful statement.
He tells Ganesh explicitly, this house is not right. He cites non-human voices at night. He says the house, it talks when the lights go out.
And Ganesh, being this modern, rational man, he just dismisses this as superstition. Village gossip, he probably called it. He needs staff, so he hires a replacement, a local man named Mohanlal.
Mohanlal is a different breed. He's described as a strong man, 40 years old, previously worked for a British military officer. He is used to discipline. He's not the kind of guy who's going to be scared by creaky floorboards.
And yet he lasts 3 weeks.
3 weeks. And the way he leaves is even more disturbing. He doesn't even collect his pay. He leaves 10 days of wages sitting on the table and just vanishes in the middle of a December night.
Yeah, that's a huge red flag. Later, Ganesh actually manages to track down Mohanlal's wife to find out what happened, and she tells him that her husband came home trembling. He confessed to her about a very specific spot in the house, the 3rd floor.
The 3rd floor seems to be the epicenter of all of this, doesn't it? Mohanlal told his wife about a closed window on that floor that never opens. But he heard crying coming from behind the shutters.
That's creepy enough. But then he told her he saw a shadow. Not a trick of the light, he was clear about that, but a definite silhouette, watching him from the end of the hall.
So this is where the isolation really sets in. Word spreads through the bazaars and the chai stalls. You know how tight-knit these communities are? By the end of December, the Sharma Haveli is effectively quarantined by the locals. Ganesh can't find any new staff. He offers double wages. Nothing. No one will go near the place.
The remaining staff, Gangadevi, the cook, and Ramu, a young helper, they are terrified. Gangadevi, who is apparently a very chatty, happy woman, she goes completely silent. And Ramu. He flat out refuses to work past sunset.
Just think about the atmosphere that creates inside that house. In the winter, the sun sets early. By 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the evening, the staff literally rushes out the door. The heavy gates are locked. And the Sharma family is left all alone in this massive, echoing palace that the rest of the city is terrified of.
The silence must have been deafening.
And then comes January 1928. The winter is brutal that year. Thick fog, zero visibility outside. And this is when the psychological siege moves from the servants directly to the family. It starts with a dream.
And this is where we move from just, atmospheric horror to something that suggests a targeted, intelligent phenomenon. Saraswati Devi wakes up screaming one night. She's drenched in sweat. She tells Ganesh she had a nightmare about that locked room on the 3rd floor.
The visualization is so specific. She says she saw the window of that room, and she saw an old woman's hand reaching out from it, the fingers curled, beckoning her to come inside.
Now, if it stops there, you can psychologize it. You can say she's stressed, she absorbed the servant's fear. It's just a nightmare. But the very next night, Rajesh, the 14-year-old son, wakes up screaming.
Describing the exact same dream. The window, the withered hand, the beckoning.
And then the daughter, Preeti, the night after that. 3 consecutive nights, 3 different family members, all with the identical visual details.
That is the breaking point for Ganesh's rationality, isn't it? Coincidence just doesn't work that way. He realizes this isn't just a feeling. There is something tangible behind that door on the 3rd floor. He decides he has to open it.
And remember, this room had no key when they moved in. It was sealed shut. So Ganesh calls a blacksmith, a local man named Shankar. And I find the scene so cinematic in the notes. They walk up the stairs, the house is silent. They stand in front of this old, heavy door, and before the blacksmith even touches the lock, he freezes.
It's the smell.
Yes. The source material is very precise here. It wasn't a damp smell or a dusty old house smell. It was described as the smell of rotting things, active organic decay.
Which makes no sense at all.
Biologically, it's impossible. If something had died in there 15 years ago, it would be dust and bones by now. Decay is a temporary process. For the smell to be that pungent, something would have to be rotting right now.
Shankar, the blacksmith, he's a smart man. He takes one whiff, he senses this heaviness in the air, and he says, I am not doing this. He packs up his tools and leaves without his pay. He senses evil.
So Ganesh is left alone. He has to do it himself. He's a father. He feels he needs to protect his family by exposing the trick, by showing them there's nothing there. So he takes the hammer, he breaks the lock on the door.
And they go in. It's dark, heavy curtains, cobwebs everywhere, a thick layer of dust on everything. But in the center of the room sits this antique wooden chest, over 100 years old, covered in complex carvings.
And this chest is also locked. But let's talk about the locks on the chest. There are 7 of them.
7. That's not for security against thieves. That is containment.
It absolutely is. And the detail that really chills me is the markings on them. Each lock is etched with these strange symbols. Now, Ganesh is an educated Brahmin. He can read Sanskrit, but he doesn't recognize these. They look like yantras, mystical diagrams used in tantric rituals, but they're distorted. They're wrong somehow.
He doesn't care. He breaks them one by one. I mean, the tension in that room must have been unbearable. He opens the lid, and inside, there's no gold, no jewels, just bundles of cloth.
And this brings us to the very heart of the haunting. He unwraps the first bundle and finds a diary. The pages are yellowed, they're brittle. It's written in Urdu. The date is 1913. The author identifies herself as Begum Jahan Ara.
This is where the story shifts from a haunting to an absolute tragedy. Ganesh sits there in the dust and he reads. The Begum writes that her husband, Nawab Ahmed Ali Khan, has locked her in this very room. He suspects her of infidelity.
A suspicion she furiously denies in the text. She pleads her innocence over and over. But the diary, it documents this rapid descent into hell. It starts in July 1913. She writes about the hunger, the food just stops coming.
Then August, the thirst, and the hallucinations begin. She writes that she hears voices in the walls, whispering to her, telling her she will never leave this room. She's being walled up alive, slowly starving to death in the dark.
And the final entry, September 1913. The handwriting is scattered, it's barely legible. It's a final testament. She writes, I curse this house. Whoever lives here will suffer my pain. This house will never be quiet.
It's a deathbed curse, fueled by absolute agony and injustice. But Ganesh digs deeper into the chest. He finds a bundle of letters. And these letters reveal that the Nawab wasn't just a jealous husband, he was a monster.
These are letters between the Nawab and a Maulvi, a religious scholar. But they aren't discussing scripture. They're discussing black magic. The Nawab wasn't just punishing her, he was conducting a specific ritual. He intended to bind her spirit to the house.
So he was using her suffering as a battery, is that what was happening?
Essentially, yes. He wanted to trap her rage and her pain within the walls to power something. We don't know what. Ganesh realizes the house is a tomb. An innocent woman died screaming in that room, and her spirit was intentionally shackled there as a kind of spiritual guard dog.
And now Ganesh is fully in detective mode. He's horrified, but he needs facts. He goes to the municipal records office in Lucknow. He confirms the house was built in 1912. The Nawab, Ahmed Ali Khan, officially disappeared in 1914.
He even finds a newspaper clipping from the Pioneer, the major English daily of the time. The headline is Nawab Ahmed Ali Khan missing. But the article is vague. It feels censored, like there's a story they're not telling.
So Ganesh takes the next logical step. He tracks down a retired police officer and Inspector Raghunath Singh, who served at that time. And this conversation just blows the entire case wide open.
The inspector tells him, look, we didn't just not find him. We were told to stop looking.
What?
Yes. The British government buried the case. You have to understand the politics of the Raj. The British relied on the Nawabs and the other local rulers to keep the peace and collect revenue. You didn't go around arresting powerful men for domestic crimes if you wanted to keep your district quiet. It was a cover-up.
But the inspector, he's retired now. He spills the beans. He says, we searched that house in 1914, and we found something in the basement.
A secret room, hidden behind a false wall. And inside that room, they found human bones. The inspector estimated they were the remains of 5 or 6 people.
5 or 6 people. So the Nawab wasn't just a murderer, he was a serial killer.
That was the working theory the police had. But Ganesh, who is either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish at this point, decides he has to verify this for himself. It's now March 1928. He waits until nightfall, until the family is asleep. He takes a lantern and he goes down into the basement. Alone.
I always wonder why they go alone in these stories, but I guess he didn't want to panic Saraswati and the children until he was absolutely sure what he was dealing with.
He finds the false wall, just where the inspector said it would be. It's made of newer bricks, you can see the difference. He breaks through it with a pickaxe, and behind it he finds a small iron door, and it's marked with the exact same twisted symbols that were on the locks of the chest in the attic.
The connection is undeniable. He manages to pry it open, and the smell hits him again, that smell of death. He steps into a tiny 10 by 10 foot room.
The walls are covered in ancient Sanskrit text, painted in red and black paint, and on the floor is a large metal yantra with a pit in the center.
And the pit, it isn't empty. The inspector had told him 5 or 6 bodies. But Ganesh holds his lantern over the edge and he sees. He sees hundreds of bones.
The scale of the horror just expands exponentially in that one moment. This wasn't a domestic crime. This wasn't one serial killer with a private compulsion. This was a slaughterhouse. Hundreds of bones imply a systematic, long-term operation. This was human sacrifice on an industrial scale.
Ganesh drops his lantern. He's standing in a mass grave. He scrambles back upstairs, utterly terrified. He realizes his family is living on top of a sacrificial pit. He wakes Saraswati and says, "We are leaving now. Tonight."
But the house, or the entity, the thing that the Nawab created, doesn't want them to leave. This is the climax of their time there. They are packing frantically, just throwing things into bags, and suddenly the lights go out. All of them.
And the doors, the heavy teak doors throughout the Haveli, they lock themselves. They hear the bolts slide shut. Click, click. They're trapped inside.
And then the sound of footsteps on the main staircase. Slow, deliberate, not coming up toward them, coming down from the 3rd floor.
Ganesh lights a lantern. His hands are shaking so badly he almost drops it. He holds it up, and he sees it, a shadow of a woman descending the stairs. But the detail that stands out in all the accounts, the eyes.
Glowing eyes, not reflecting light like a cat's eyes would, but glowing with their own internal malevolent luminescence.
It is descending upon them. Saraswati faints. The kids are screaming hysterically. Ganesh is cornered in his own home. He has no weapons. He has no way out. So he uses the only thing he has left, faith.
He starts reciting the Hanuman Chalisa. For those unfamiliar, this is a devotional hymn to Hanuman, the monkey god who represents strength, devotion, and crucially, protection against evil spirits. In Indian culture, this is the ultimate spiritual shield.
He closes his eyes and just chants. He screams the verses into the darkness.
It's a battle of wills, isn't it? The ancient protective verses against this concentrated historical evil that has been cultivated in this house. And it works, but only by a fraction. The entity vanishes, the front door unlatches with a loud crack. They grab the unconscious Saraswati and they run into the night.
They leave everything, their clothes, their furniture, the deal of a lifetime. They just run.
They survive. But the story is far from over. The next day, a traumatized Ganesh goes to the police. Now, we have a British officer in charge, Inspector John Thomas, and he is, predictably skeptical, native superstitions. But Ganesh is insistent. He's a respected merchant, not some village farmer.
Right, he has credibility.
Inspector Thomas, probably just to shut him up, sends a couple constables to check the basement. And they come back, white as sheets, they confirm it. They find the bones.
This triggers a massive investigation. Forensic science in 1928 wasn't what it is today, of course, but a Dr. Aaron Mukherjee from Calcutta is brought in. He confirms the bones on just the surface layer of the pit belong to at least 12 distinct individuals, men, women, and children.
And he notes something horrifying, signs of torture ante-mortem, before death. These people suffered immensely while they were alive. This blows the lid off the entire city. The papers go absolutely crazy. It becomes the House of Horrors.
The police, now taking this very seriously, interrogate the Nawab's nephew, who is still living in the area. And under pressure, he cracks. He reveals that his uncle was part of a secret tantric cult.
This connects to a much broader, darker historical current, right?
Exactly. The nephew reveals this group originated in Bengal, a region famous for its very intense Shakta and tantric traditions, and had been spreading into Awadh. Their motive was the acquisition of supernatural power, what are called siddhis, through human sacrifice.
And based on this confession, the police start finding more sites. It wasn't just this one Haveli. They find other killing rooms in Kanpur, Allahabad, Banaras. The total body count across all these sites, around 200 people.
It's staggering. A network of ritual murder that had been operating for years right under the noses of the British Raj. But here is the most chilling part of the entire investigation. They never catch the leader, the man known only as Guruji. He vanishes into the shadows.
He's a ghost.
So the cult disperses, the case goes cold. But let's go back to the Sharma family. They escaped with their lives, but did they really escape?
This is the real tragedy of the story, the trauma. Financially, Ganesh is ruined. He lost everything. But the psychological toll is far, far heavier. Saraswati Devi never recovers. She ends up in a mental asylum in 1945. She died there in 1951.
And the nurses reported that she would talk to the wall, right?
Yes. They said she would whisper to the wall saying, "She's calling me. She wants me to come back to the house."
Oh, that just breaks my heart. And what about Rajesh, the eldest son? The one who had the dream?
He committed suicide in 1960. He left a note saying the dreams never stopped. For over 30 years, the woman in the window was still beckoning him.
Preeti, the daughter, lived a life of isolation, never married, never had children. And Vikram, the youngest, he's the survivor. He lived into his 90s.
But even he couldn't completely escape it. In 2010, as a very old man, he went back to Lucknow one last time. He stood outside the ruin at the Havia, and he told a journalist who was with him that he saw her, the woman, still standing in that third-floor window, still watching.
And the house itself. The story doesn't end in 1928. It seems to have kept claiming victims.
It has. In 1968, the city council decided to survey the ruin for demolition. A council engineer named Mohan Sharma, no relation, went inside. He never came out.
Manesh.
Completely. The only thing they ever found was his hard hat sitting on the ground outside the door to that locked room on the third floor.
And then in the 80s, there was a journalist, right, Ravi Kumar. He wrote a book claiming the cult was still active.
Secrets Buried in the Dark. A very dangerous book to write, apparently. He disappeared in 1986. And very suspiciously, the entire print run of his book was destroyed in a warehouse fire shortly after. It strongly suggests that Guruji or his successors were not just a thing of the past. They were still around and they were silencing people.
So fast forward to the modern era. We have paranormal investigators finally getting access to this site. In 1999, a team gets an EVP, an electronic voice phenomenon. A clear recording of a woman's voice speaking in Urdu saying, "Get me out of here."
And in 2005, a Dr. Jennifer Houston, an American parapsychologist, she proposed a theory that the rituals performed in that house didn't just haunt it with a memory, but that they had physically opened a portal, that the boundary between our world and somewhere else is permanently thinned there.
So bringing it all the way to 2025. Today, the Haveli is a ruin. The roof has collapsed, the walls are crumbling, but that one room on the third floor, it remains eerily intact.
And the locals, the people who live nearby, they still report hearing crying sounds on full moon nights. It remains this festering open wound in the psyche of the city.
So let's try and synthesize this. What does this all mean? We've unpacked a lot here, from a dream home to a mass grave.
For me, the central tragedy is the collateral damage. The Sharma family did nothing wrong. They were full of hope. They represented the future of India in a way. And they were destroyed simply because they bought the wrong piece of property. They walked into a history they couldn't possibly have understood.
It's the sheer unfairness of it all. They just opened a door.
And they looked into the dark. And the dark was already there, waiting.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to take away. The cult leader, this Guruji, was never found. Ravi Kumar, the journalist, vanished in the 1980s, which implies the group was still active then. The source material suggests these kinds of secret societies don't just disappear, they adapt. They hide in plain sight.
It raises a deeply uncomfortable question. Where are they now? If they move from grand, obvious Havelis to remote villages, or perhaps into the complete anonymity of modern high-rise apartments, are the rituals still happening somewhere, just out of sight?
That is a terrifying thought to leave you with. We walk past old houses and forgotten places every single day. We assume history is dead and buried. But sometimes, it's just waiting in the basement.
Indeed. It's a stark reminder that when you look into the dark for too long, the dark really does start to look back.
So listeners, next time you see a steal of a deal on a historic property, maybe ask why it's so cheap. And if you find a locked room that smells like decay, don't call a locksmith. Just
and hold on to your light, whatever that may be for you.
Stay in the light, everyone. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay happy, stay safe, comment your views down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.